In 14th of April 1912, the largest ship in the world at the time, R.M.S Titanic, is steaming at 21 knots in a maiden voyage towards New York. However, an iceberg protruded into her route. Despite the effort to steer the ship away at 11:40 p.m., the iceberg scraped the starboard of Titanic. The damage is soon proven too catastrophic. 25 minutes later, Captain Smith ordered passengers to board the lifeboats. At 1:20 a.m., 6 lifeboats were launched, while the crew is trying their best to manage the crowd, at the same time launching the remaining 14 lifeboats. Everyone knows there are not enough seats left, and there is only 1 hour left before Titanic sink. In today's video, let's look at how I built the diorama The Last Hour and talk about this well-known ship, the R.M.S Titanic. In this build, I'm using the 700 scale kit from Academy. It is first released in 2007, and the revision I got is from 2016. Being an old kit, it has many issues, but we'll talk about that after we finish the build. There are other options for 700 scale Titanic on the market, with the latest releases from Hobby Boss and Maine less than 2 years ago. If you happen to build one of these, let me know how it's like in the comments below. Pairing with the kit, I got a photo etch set from Rainbow Models, as well as some 3D printed sailors and passengers for the diorama. Without further ado, let's get into the build. I start building the hull by installing some mini LEDs. Although the kit does provide some light bulbs, I found these surface mount LEDs which are relatively cheap. They have much smaller footprints and can be easily hid inside the ship. I cover the LEDs with a few layers of masking tape to smooth out the lighting, and it also helps to make the color warmer, which is what Titanic would have 112 years ago. If you look at the tip of Titanic, you will find a hole without an anchor attached to it. This is not for ventilation. It is designed to use to pass through cables in a situation when towing from another ship is required, or the third anchor needs to be dropped. The model missed out this detail, however, so I made it with some epoxy putty. Titanic is 269 meters long, 28 meters wide, and 53 meters tall, which is as tall as an 18th floor building. When commissioned in 1912, it is the largest ship in the world with a total displacement of 52,000 tons. It is designed to be the most luxurious and comfortable ocean liner, capable of carrying 2,453 passengers. The ship is owned by the White Star Line to operate the Southampton to New York route with a sister ship, R.M.S Olympic. Being the largest ship in the world at the time, Titanic has a total of 9 decks. On the very top is the boat deck. This is where all the lifeboats will be launched. The bridge is located at the front of the boat deck, followed by several promenades for officers, first-class passengers, engineers, and second-class passengers, respectively. This is why in the movie, Rose would say something like this.
This is my part of the ship. You lead.
The second deck from the top is the promenade deck. It has 2 166 meters long promenades on both sides, exclusively for first-class passengers, together with other first-class cabins, lounges, reading and writing rooms, and more. The kit has window details for these 2 decks, but I will replace them with photo etched parts. Here, I remove the plastic with a push brush and smooth the surface with sandpapers before gluing the PE parts in place. This is a small house located right after the third funnel. It is the engine room casing, which goes all the way down to the engine house at the bottom of the ship. It also provides ventilation and smoking space for the engineers. On its roof, there are grids that can be opened or closed depending on the weather. and on the side there are windows. Again, the kit does not have these openings, so I have to create them before putting on PE parts to make lighting effect more visible through the openings. In the early 1900s, the mainstream propulsion system for ships is steam engine, and Titanic is of no exception. Powered by 2 reciprocating steam engine and 1 low-pressure turbine, she is able to travel at 21 knots in surface. To generate enough steam for the engines, 24 double-ended boiler and 5 single-ended boiler will consume 600 tons of coal every day, which is why these giant funnels are required. You probably already know that only the first 3 funnels are connected to these boilers, while the 4th one is mainly for decoration and providing ventilation for the kitchen. The PE set provides enough detail to distinguish the 4th funnel from the rest. Can you recognize which one it is? Titanic has 8 electric cranes on board. These cranes are used to lift cargo and baggage in and out of the storage. The R.M.S in her name stands for Royal Mail Ship, indicating her secondary duty as a mail ship to carry letters and parcels between the British and the United States. Titanic carries 20 lifeboats in 3 different variants: 14 wooden lifeboats, 4 collapsibles, and 2 emergency boats, which are always hang outwards in case of an emergency. Perhaps it is well known that these lifeboats are only capable of carrying about 1/3 of the maximum capacity at the same time, but in 1912 it is actually compliant with the regulatory requirements, where vessels over 10,000 tons need to have at least 16 lifeboats. These lifeboats are expected to ferry passengers to nearby rescuing ships instead of carrying the entire population on board. After the tragedy of Titanic, all ships are required to have enough lifeboats for everyone on board. In an emergency, these lifeboats will be launched by 16 davits located on the boat deck. These davits are numbered from front to back, with even number ones at port and odd number ones at starboard. Titanic was built by Holland and Wolff in the city of Belfast. She was laid down in March 1909, just a few months later than her sister ship, Olympic. Building the largest ship in the world is never an easy task. Holland and Wolff had to construct 2 new slipways to accommodate the gigantic Olympic-class hull. It is believed that around 15,000 workers participated in the construction of Titanic, which took 26 months, and she was launched in May 1911. It then took almost a year to fit all the equipment, including engine, superstructure, funnel, and interiors. In 2nd of April 1912, just 8 days before her maiden voyage, the Titanic passed the sea trial and gained her seaworthiness. She would now wait for her first and the last batch of passengers. Coming back to our model Titanic, which is also near completion, let's talk about the build real quick. The kit itself doesn't provide too much accuracy and details. Without photo etched parts, it feels more like a toy instead of a model. The fitting isn't bad, but between the bow and superstructure, there's a huge gap that needs to be filled. It is a colored kit, and the colors on most parts are not bad, but the funnels are just too saturated. Basically, the details on this build mostly comes from the PE set, which have great details like benches, cranes, and davits. In fact, I selected this PE set first, before deciding on the kit which the PE set is made for. I'm not sure if this set works for the Hobby Boss or main kit. If it does, let me know in the comments below. In this build, I'm trying a different method to make sea waves. The starting point is the same. I cut a piece of foam and outline the hole to cut out an opening to place the ship. What is different this time is I will be using modeling stone clay instead of the super light clay in the previous build. And I wait for the clay to dry before shaping the waves with my electric hand drill. The waves are more refined and random, and the sizes are closer to 700 scale. When the waves are shaped, I spray a layer of putty just like all other parts. And then I shaded the waves in black to create a more dynamic effect. The last layer is dark blue, which is the main color of the waves. I put the base aside while it's drying and work on other elements of the diorama. Here, I'm painting life jacket for the 3D printed passengers. They are extremely small and fragile, so it's a good idea to prepare a bit more than you need just in case it runs out. On board Titanic, there were 8 musicians who played music for first-class passengers. During the sinking of Titanic, the musicians were playing music to calm the passengers until the very last moment. None of them survived. When the paint dries and it's time to put everything together, I put the base to a wooden frame and secure the ship to the base. I then attach lifeboats to davits and load the passengers into the lifeboats. At 1:20 a.m. of April 15, lifeboats number 1, number 3, number 8 were just launched, and number 6 is still being lowered. At the same time, more passengers from second and third class are still hoping to get onto the lifeboats. When everything is installed, the last step is to brush a layer of gel to give the waves a glossy surface. The gel comes with Atlantic blue scheme, and in just an hour, it is where the Titanic will sink.
Iceberg, right ahead!
Titanic will founder.
For the time being, I shall require only women and children.
Forward away, left and right together!
Gentlemen, it has been a privilege playing with you tonight.